Variety has just dropped a bombshell investigation into Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's.
He's had enough. He wants to clean the monarchy, and it's all now in the hands of the courts. Meghan Markle is in full mode panic along with Harry because they both know what they.
All of these lies started coming out, but we didn't know that she had told the royal family so many porcupines. So it makes sense. Oh my God, I've got to keep everybody away because
Prince William just made a move that's sending shockwaves, and it lands right in the middle of Meghan Markle's maternity story. At the exact moment Meghan was posting lighthearted hospital dance clips online, a serious legal battle was quietly unfolding across the ocean, and now it's stepping into full view. What stayed under the radar is suddenly impossible to ignore, and the timing is making people look twice at everything.
Something is happening right now in the courts, which is incredibly important, and nobody's paying attention to it because this will make history, and not in a good way for Rachel Meghan.
We're talking about a massive £157 million inheritance fight, a surrogate-born aristocratic child, and a 400-year-old rule that's now raising a question the palace has carefully avoided since 2019.
Marquess of Bath was open and transparent about this. So she is right now going through the legal process because as per the Peerage Act of 1963, that child born in the United States from a surrogate is not entitled to anything, inheritance or any.
Were the Sussex children actually born of the body? Because if not, and more voices are starting to ask, that question could shake everything.
Put an article out there that Meghan had a hysterectomy and couldn't have children, and that was a big issue in their relationship. So that says a lot to the fake royal kids right now, because obviously they couldn't have come out of her. So that's something that she obviously is going to have to deal with.
This isn't some small technical issue in royal protocol. It's a potential collapse waiting to happen, and the tension around it is getting louder by the day. Just days ago, one of the most shocking legal twists in British aristocracy dropped, and surprisingly, almost no one in Meghan-focused circles explained what it really means. The Marquess of Bath, Solon Thyn, stepped into Bristol's High Court with his legal team and revealed something stunning. His second son, 9-year-old Henry, born through surrogacy in West Hollywood back in 2016, might not even qualify as a legal heir to the family fortune. And this isn't small money sitting around. We're talking about £157 million tied up in historic trusts, written using outdated language from before 1970. These old rules are rigid, and they don't bend easily. Under those laws, if a child is not physically born from the mother, the system may not recognize them at all. It's that strict, that blunt, and that unforgiving.
Obviously, when William was born and Harry was born and George and Charlotte and Louis, we got great pictures outside the hospital. I remember, and William and Catherine especially, they made such an effort to show the whole world their new.
The judge, Mr. Justice Matthews, didn't soften the message either. He made it clear there is real uncertainty about whether Henry even counts as a beneficiary. Think about that for a second. A 9-year-old boy, fully biological to his parents, born through a completely legal and documented surrogacy, and still the system is saying, we're not sure you qualify. That's where this situation turns serious, and this is exactly where the spotlight starts shifting. Here's where things really start heating up for Meghan and Harry, because this case lands uncomfortably close to home.
What does he take after? Does he look like anyone?
We're still trying to figure that out.
But everyone says the baby's changed so much over 2 weeks. We're basically sort of monitoring how the changing process happens over this next month, really. But his looks are changing every single day. Yeah. So
the royal line of succession runs on one strict old-school rule: born of the body. That phrase has controlled everything since the Act of Settlement in 1701. Over 300 years of tradition, locked in tight, no flexibility, no easy exceptions. Every royal heir followed that system step by step. Births witnessed by palace officials, carefully documented, checked, and confirmed without question. No shortcuts, no surprises. And then Archie arrives. And suddenly the script looks different. Let's be clear, this isn't about random dislike fueled by internet chatter. This is about patterns that keep showing up again and again, raising eyebrows for a reason. The same Meghan who told Oprah she wanted to live authentically is also connected to a team that pushes back hard when simple questions come up about her pregnancy timeline.
Markle has been incredibly quiet about the birth, but mostly the pregnancy of these children. Everything has been shady. The one who's been blabbing and saying crazy things is Prince.
People ask basic things, and suddenly legal warnings start flying around. That doesn't feel open. It feels like tight image control wrapped in royal branding. And this pregnancy topic, it's not about extreme claims, it's about clarity. In a system where bloodline decides everything, the questions are actually very simple. Where were the children born? When exactly? And who officially verified it?
She had a lot of health issues and she couldn't have one of her children. So they had to use a surrogate in the United States. Why the United States? Because in the United Kingdom, the children, even though through a surrogate, belong to the...
That's it, clear and direct. Now look at William's children. Born at St. Mary's Hospital, presented on the steps within hours, fully documented in front of the public. The entire country watched those moments unfold in real time. It was transparent and consistent with tradition.
When the baby was born, when Archie was born, that was another, in my view, a disaster because I knew we was not going to get a picture of it. Everybody was hoping we would get.
Now compare that to Meghan's children, and this is where people start to question things more closely. When Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor was born at Portland Hospital on May 6, 2019, the usual royal process didn't play out the same way. There was no hospital steps photo call, a tradition followed for decades, no publicly displayed signed notice from attending doctors, which had always been standard practice. Yes, a birth certificate was released, but for many observers, it didn't answer every question.
Meghan actually refused to use the hospital that was usually used by royals and refused to use all of the normal medical staff. And there was all of the weirdness over the timing of the birth of...
Then Harry later shared in Spare that they left the hospital within 2 hours, straight into a lift, down to an underground car park, into a vehicle, and back to Frogmore Cottage, before the palace had even officially confirmed Meghan was in labor. For a family that spent centuries making royal births visible for constitutional reasons, not just ceremony, that shift stands out in a big way. That's not a minor adjustment. That's a complete break from tradition.
Scandal comes as no surprise. Speculation about the children has been simmering for years.
And then there's Harry's own description of the moment. It doesn't read like a formal royal record at all. He talks about electric candles, framed photos of Diana, and even an Ayurvedic doctor guiding them to share quiet wishes with the baby in the first minute of life. It's deeply personal, but very different from the structured, documented royal norm. It sounds deeply personal, no doubt about that. But at the same time, it feels far removed from the structured, documented process royal watchers are used to seeing. As one person put it, other royals give a clear birth announcement. Harry gave something closer to a lifestyle story, and then came Lilibet in June 2021. And instead of the questions fading, they doubled.
Silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample or proof of delivery. If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. This is what it is.
She was born at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital, and Harry shared that he personally delivered his daughter, saying, "I slid my hands under the tiny back and neck. I pulled our precious daughter from that world into this." It's a powerful image, no question. A father wanting to be that involved is something many people respect. But here's where the real issue comes in, and it's the part that keeps getting avoided. In a system where rules about birth and verification still matter for succession, these details aren't just private family moments. They carry weight far beyond Montecito. Ignoring that reality only leads to more questions being asked. Unlike major royal births going back to the early 1700s, neither Archie's nor Lilibet's arrival was independently witnessed or formally verified by palace-appointed officials.
Geriatric mother. The family claims and states that Meghan had a hysterectomy. How can a woman with a hysterectomy be pregnant? And most of all, why did the royal family go along with this? And what's going to happen now that this has come out?
Not in the traditional way people expect. No independent medical witness presented publicly, no formal Privy Council-style confirmation, just Harry's personal account of the events. And when your children are 6th and 7th in line to the British throne, a personal story, no matter how heartfelt, is not the same as an official constitutional record.
Prince William knows that the crown cannot keep making the same mistakes in the past, that nobody who is not working royal can hold title.
That difference matters, and people notice it. Here's the point that keeps coming up again and again. If there's nothing to hide, and there may not be, then why hasn't there been one clear, simple confirmation in 6 years? Not legal warnings, not layered statements, not back and forth responses, just a straightforward verification that settles everything cleanly. Why does such a basic question keep getting answers that feel indirect or overly complicated? That's what keeps fueling the conversation.
Point in time, King Charles doesn't understand that he cannot continue having Harry and Meghan on the British monarchy's website when they are absolutely trashing the very same institution and using titles for commercial purposes, which is basically repeating the same pattern that Sarah Ferguson has done and even Andrew did.
Reports from well-placed sources suggest Prince William has been paying close attention to these circumstances, taking them seriously as the questions continue to grow. One insider shared that he views the situation around both births as unusual. And that's not a word someone in his position throws around lightly. It carries weight. His actions seem to reflect that mindset too. There's been a noticeable push to separate the Sussex name from the monarchy's official structure. Changes to royal listings, ongoing discussions about how titles are used, especially in commercial spaces. Something is clearly shifting behind the scenes. There's also a growing frustration people keep pointing out. As one comment put it, "Meghan, if you hate the royals so much, stop using the title they gave you."
Wants all of the privileges that go along with an identity, but she doesn't want any of the responsibility. She doesn't want to do any of the work. She wants the tiara. She doesn't want the public.
That tension stands out to many watching closely. It's not just background noise from the media, it's the contrast that keeps grabbing attention. Stepping back from royal duties while still using royal identifiers in public-facing projects creates a mixed message, and people are noticing it more than ever. And this is exactly why the Marquis of Bath case matters so much right now. It takes something that once felt theoretical and turns it into a real legal issue with real consequences.
Peerage Act of 1963 clearly states, just like for royalty, that a surrogate cannot be used.
He clearly cares about his son, has been open about the surrogacy, and is actively going through the courts to secure his child's position. That's direct action, facing the issue head-on. But here's the key point his case highlights. Under current British inheritance and trust laws, especially older ones, there can still be uncertainty around how surrogate-born children are recognized in very specific legal situations. That's not opinion. That's how the law is written, plain and simple.
William has ordered an open investigation into Lilibet and Archie's birth because he knows that that cannot be hanging over the head of the monarchy, over his.
Mr. Justice Matthews made it crystal clear. The Marquis has to go to court and formally request that Henry be added as a beneficiary. The system doesn't just allow it automatically. Think about that for a second. A father has to stand before a judge and formally ask for his own child to be recognized under the law. That's how strict and outdated some of these rules can be. That's how strict and honestly how outdated some of these rules still are. Now take that exact situation and scale it all the way up to the monarchy. We're no longer talking about a private family trust. We're talking about the Crown, the Act of Settlement, the Succession to the Crown Act, centuries-old constitutional frameworks that don't shift easily. You can't just tweak these rules in a quiet meeting or smooth things over behind closed doors. These are core foundations of the entire system, built over hundreds of years and locked in place for a reason. So if a £157 million estate can run into legal uncertainty over a surrogate-born child, what kind of questions could surface around an institution that's more than 1,000 years old?
Case about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bar. The fact is, Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince Archie.
And this is where things start to feel uncomfortable, fast. If, and this is said carefully, if surrogacy were ever formally confirmed as part of either of the Sussex children's births, what would that mean under current rules? Would Parliament have to step in and examine whether their place in the line of succession meets the legal definitions as they stand today? That's not a simple or automatic answer. This new case suggests it might not be as straightforward as many people assume. It raises a real legal question, not just a passing headline or online chatter. Comments that were once brushed aside are now being looked at again, but this time through a much more serious legal lens. And that shift is what's getting attention now. Statements like, "People need to look at the timeline," are getting fresh attention, not because of who originally said them, but because of what's unfolding in court right now. The focus has clearly shifted. This is no longer just about opinions or speculation. It's about how existing laws are actually written and applied in real situations. People are now zeroing in on phrases like "born of the body" and asking how consistently that standard is enforced across different cases. When the same wording can put a child's inheritance into question in one situation, it naturally sparks wider curiosity about how that same rule works elsewhere. That's not rumor. That's people closely examining legal language and precedent. The The lack of detailed public clarification has also kept the conversation alive. When questions first started circulating, the responses leaned more toward protecting privacy and managing media attention rather than offering clear public verification. That approach is understandable on a personal level, but it's also left some observers feeling like key details are still missing. There's also a noticeable contrast in how different situations are handled. In the Marquis of Bath's case, everything is being addressed openly in court. Clear process, clear arguments, full visibility for everyone to see. In comparison, the Sussex situation has been handled much more privately, with limited official details shared publicly. That difference in approach is something people keep pointing out again and again. Prince William didn't create these questions, but he is in a position where clarity carries serious weight. From what can be seen, there's an effort to make sure the monarchy's future avoids uncertainty, especially on issues that carry real constitutional importance. This isn't about stirring drama, it's about stability and making sure the system holds up under scrutiny. At the end of the day, everything keeps circling back to one key idea: consistency. How rules are written, how they're applied, and how clearly they're explained to the public. The Marquis of Bath case shows that even long-standing systems can run into modern challenges. And when that happens, people start asking much bigger questions than before. If you're into these kinds of deep dives and want to keep up as new details come out, hit subscribe and stick around. There's a lot more to unpack as this keeps developing.